3 is the future.
Welcome, crew, to What Are Your 3, a Channel 3 podcast, where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, go through some honorable mentions and some other odds and ends for a nice little video game discussion. I'm Dan Tucker and don't have Ray with me today. I'm sorry, everybody. You're stuck with me, which means it's a developer episode. So with me instead, we have David Tveraas of Occupational Hazard, a creative director of Nightborn, amongst some other games. But we're gonna chat a little bit about Nightborn here. So welcome, David, to joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
All right. Well, let's get started. Most specifically, I guess we'll say we're here to talk about Nightborn. First of all, I do want to congratulate you because we're recording this on Valentine's Day afternoon. So it's the according to Steam, at least, it's the 3-year anniversary of iWoman releasing on Steam, if nothing else. I know there's some other places it could be accessed. True. But congratulations on the 3-year anniversary there. So
appreciate that. Thank you. That was my first game that I published. It's a twin stick shooter. I love it, but yeah, thank you so much.
Very, very customizable also. You can change character information, the way you can kind of proceed with the game, which is something I think we'll be hitting on not only for Nightborn, but for your gaming history as well. Will probably be important for customization, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I like to ensure that players are able to customize their characters in all the games that I develop. I feel that's a very important aspect for players to feel like their character is something that they own, something that they can relate to. And the more options that I can provide, the easier it is for players to feel that way.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's jump into it then. So, again, creative director of Nightborn. So this one's in the works. Fight, sneak, or charm your way through a gothic modern New Orleans as a vampire detective of your creation. Unravel a vast centuries-old supernatural conspiracy. Try to survive as a Nightborn without losing yourself to madness or damnation. I have to say, you probably the one thing that's really tied in some of the best games of the last few years, which some of which you're going to talk about specifically, it is really around world building. There's even when you look at something like Vampire Survivors, not to just bring vampires into this, but like it's a game that doesn't say much, but just has a lot going on in it. I've talked with some other developers, and these projects that have this world that gets you invested is important. And you've certainly been laying the groundwork for all of that. You've got a quiz out there to even let you know information about your lineage. A nice YouTube video kind of breaking out. Is it 10 different categories for lineages?
That's correct. There are 10 lineages in Nightborn. A lineage is which line of blood you come from in the vampire world of Nightborn, and each has their own unique aspects and powers and history.
So what made you say this is the world I'm going to go into? I'm going to develop something. I'm creating my own property. What made you go this direction?
So I am a huge fan of the third game of my 3 that I was going to talk about, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. So I'm taking this as a spiritual successor to that, kind of like what Obsidian does with a lot of their games, where they take like the Outer Worlds as a spiritual successor to like Fallout, or Pillars of Eternity would be a spiritual successor to like the Dungeons and Dragons games like Baldur's Gate. And I wanted to make my own spiritual successor to Bloodlines with my own original world. The idea for me to build it as my own original world actually came from a conversation I had with Tim Kaine of Fallout fame. He also, did he actually worked on Bloodlines, Arcanum, many other games as well. I think he did the Outer Worlds as well. And he was I was telling him about how I'd love to work on a property like that one day. They're developing Bloodlines 2 right now, and he said, forget other people's properties, just build your own, basically was his advice. That's not an exact quote, but he feels like he has so much more freedom when he can just not try to answer to something that's pre-established, but can build something of his own. That's how he was able to be on teams like Fallout and build up his own universe and world, which he actually started from GURPS, a role-playing game system. All of my games that I'm discussing today are all have role playing game tabletop roots.
Yep. Everything goes back. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, just build out your own worlds. And at first I was like, wow, that's an interesting prospect. How would I do this? And so I just took out a notepad and paper and started writing down my ideas, things that I wish other vampire games had that they haven't had in the past, like inspiration, not just Bloodlines, but also games like Vampire, and like there's a lot of games that include vampires, like Skyrim had its own vampire stuff. So I mean, it's such a rich, deep thing that it goes beyond video games and into literature, folklore, movies.
Especially when you talk about folklore, like that's something that it's one of those weird things that just appears all around the world, regardless of background. There's some sort of vampiric type folklore that's out there across the world. So it gives you a lot to pull from that way too. You're not limited, you're not restricted.
Absolutely. It's a multicultural phenomenon, and there's all these great ideas and stories from all around the world that I can pull from and add and celebrate the culture and make great references to like actual like literary works and myths. And I could do it in it's such a broad range of things that it actually doesn't take much to have a completely original world that's not going to copy something that already exists, because it's so wide, and it's you can sort of like pick and choose which aspects of the myths you want to concentrate on. And that's why I'm excited to bring Nightborn to Steam, the Epic Games Store, Kickstarter, so that the players can get a whole new experience, a whole new take on the vampire myth.
So you have a quiz out there as part of kind of your lore building teases that are out there that kind of help people to determine what category they fall into. I admittedly fell into Orlok, and I'm never sure how people will feel about how they turn out. Meanwhile, I read, I'm like, yeah, okay, that tracks. That's fine. Deals on it, plotting deals. Okay, I accept it for what it is. I understand that.
Have you seen the latest Eggers Nosferatu movie?
I have not. No, only because that getting out for an adventure like that is not easy. I'm looking forward to it, only because, again, like I have season tickets to Robert Eggers, and again, Ray's not here to stop me from dabbling in movie commentary, so haha, too bad, Ray. But again, I'm still wrapping my mind around the fact that you got Willem Dafoe on the other side of. There's like 3 layers to Willem Dafoe in this case, because he played Max Schreck playing Orlok in Shadow of the Vampire 20 some years ago, and now he's on the other. Anyway, but no, I'm dying to see that one. I've been waiting for it. I'm in a fantasy movie league, and that was I had the number 1 draft pick last year, and that was the pick last year. I was on the Nosferatu train as of December of 2023, waiting for this one. So no, I have not. You did, I guess, from the way you're asking.
Yeah, I actually loved it in particular, and it really goes to show how the vampire myth just not only transcends generational divides. Like, I mean, this is like the 3rd major iteration of Nosferatu, and there's a whole bunch of different, like you said, that Willem Dafoe has played
the actor playing Count Orlok. Yes.
Exactly. That's how all-encompassing that the cultural phenomenon is that they're making movies about making vampire movies. Like it's amazing. And this new take on Count Orlok, this new take on the Nosferatu version, which originally the Nosferatu was a ripoff of Dracula. So
it was the way to get around copyrights. Yeah.
Yep. They try to make them destroy every version. It's good that one snuck out, and we're able to have this continued cultural phenomenon. But in this newest version, Orlok is so different, but also plays great homage to the prior works. So it's this continued tradition that I wish to participate Nightborn in with this exact thing, and which is why I'm honoring Nosferatu by one of my lineages naming it Orlok. And that's exactly what each lineage is. It's a representation of like a great cultural or literary line of vampire myth. So like there's another vampire lineage named Carmilla, because that's a story and lines of mythology that has transcended throughout the ages as well.
So what did you test? You have to have tested yourself, and where did you fall versus where you think you were supposed to fall?
All right, so a lot of people take this test in two ways, and I did it both ways. One's the what I would really do, and that landed me um, in Brushu, the mystical cult deriving lineage. And then there's the way where I was like, well, this is who I'd be like in a story.
This is the RPG version of me. Yeah,
the RPG, the sassy version of me, and that landed me in Carmilla. So that's the more like aristocratic, throwing the ball, extravagant balls, and having like salacious rumors. That's that lineage.
Live it up.
Yep. Live it up.
What? So have you done any data analysis on what's been done as far as like, so what is popped as number 1 of the 10? Have you looked at that at all out of curiosity?
Yes. So Mara is very, very popular. That's the like super gothy vampires, the ones that are like obsessed with death and have powers over like just like necromancy and shadows and stuff like that. That's a lot of people are scoring Mara.
Yes, I'm aware.
Yes. They're always dressed in the darkest of clothings, the Vanta Black clothing, and I'd say, and on the opposite end of that, I'm surprised there's only one person so far that scored Ruthven, which is another one of the ultra dramatic, like maybe like Lestat like vampires.
A lot of flair on that one, yeah.
A lot of flair on that one, but only one person so far. Hopefully, a lot more people take the quiz, and please take the. We'll make sure to link that somewhere, right?
I'll have that in the show notes, and we also have that on the Channel 3 page for Nightborn itself. That the link is on the feed for Nightborn, so it's right there, easy to access for everybody. But again, it'll be right there in the show notes. You can jump right to it, so that'll be easy and painless. Get hyped up.
Yeah.
So you've got the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'd say Orlok is probably one of the rarer results for people.
I don't like your tone with the way you said that. You feel like you're judging.
little unusual. No, I mean, I love like every single lineage I wrote in a way where it's not like I can have a favorite. It's that these are all the things that I love about the vampire myth. And all, like it's when you can have more than one favorite food, right? And it also depends what you're in the mood for. So these are all different things that I love about the vampire myth. I just basically made a 10 list of like the top 10 things I like about the vampire myth, and like looked for it in literary examples, and just created an entire lineage out of it, which is going to be the different like sort of sub factions in the game, just by blood at least. And the vampire culture. Nightborn is actually more. It's deeper than that. It's not just by your blood. It's by like what you think being a vampire means. There's sort of like a politics to it, where it's like, are we monsters that stalk the night? Are we puppet masters that like control the mortals? Or are we something that transcends beyond what it means? Like we're immortal. Like are we even of this world? Should we be trying to discover new ways to advance and evolve? Like there's a whole bunch of different political spectrum that goes in the gothic underworld of Nightborn.
Yeah, you talk about like the orthodoxy versus the when you go back to the old ways versus the ones who want to experiment and kind of see what could happen. So it's funny because when you said that, one of your honorable mentions came to mind of like you're going to be talking about games where there's several right answers probably, or like you could pick your way to go about it, and then there's games where like there's no good answer, and you're
right.
you're gonna play this game, like you're still compelled by this game, but like okay, you got to pick the lesser of 17 evils, and which one's gonna be the one you go with. And
yes, I'm designing it in the shades of gray methodology, school of thought. Yeah.
So you're building this in Unreal, current Unreal 5, I think. So you got
yes, very current Unreal 5.5.2, the latest so far.
Yeah, they just dropped some update in the last week, I think, or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that particular version is going to help me a lot because of its upgraded metahumans. I'm using metahumans as the characters. It has just a lot of great features, like state tree is a new way to do the enemy AI, and a lot of functions that are just like actually kind of brand new. I'm going to stick with that version, and just make sure that I'm not going to be like the trend chaser that's always after the newest technology, but I'm going to grab this snapshot in time and make a game out of that. And I love the Unreal suite with all the like like metahumans and Quixel mega scans and stuff like that can make it a cheaper way to make a game so that I can sell a game that's not like the $100 that everyone's talking about games becoming. Like I want to keep the price reasonable.
There's an entire other conversation to be had about the direction of triple A's versus indies versus the financial drivers versus the artistic drivers. It's a whole other realm that would need a 7-hour panel of experts that I am not.
Absolutely.
So you've described this as an action RPG. So we talk, I get held up on the lore because I think that's important for building a world in a game and avoiding that like just cashing in on like a current trend thing. I think that's what sells me on paying attention to a game. Right. Of course, there are games I love that like don't say a single word, but you just kind of get that there's a world and like there's words and there's worlds, and either one works for me. But so the action RPG side of this, what do you envision? How does that proceed? Are we again not to harken ahead? We've got some Fallout conversation. There's some Baldur's Gate conversations, some D&D. Where do you see the action side of the RPG side of this coming in?
So I want to make it so I'm designing this with interesting philosophy where I see there's 3 paths. There's the path of like the brute where all you do is strong arm people, you fight, and that's how you win. But there's also the part where you can be more of this investigator where you just try to find clues, you try to sweet talk people, get solve puzzles, and that's how you win. And then I want there also to be like this like snaky path where you're avoiding people entirely. You just try to get what you need, get out. So that there's like a stealth, a combat, and a social path basically. And you don't just take the path. You can mix and match what you want to do where you want to do it. And sometimes if let's say you're trying to sneak and you get caught, maybe then you have to use one of the other paths. But I want to make it so that you can play the entire game in these various ways, and that way you can mix and match and get the result that you want in the end. So as far as actual gameplay, think like the original Bloodlines, or maybe even like Vampire, or it's going to be hub-based, so it's not going to be like a grand open world, but there is going to be some gameplay that's going to be inspired by stuff like Cyberpunk 2077 or Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, that kind of thing. But it's so you can walk your character around either third or first person. You can switch between them. There'll just be a toggle key, and you can talk to people, get quests. There will be areas that are safe for you to either just walk around and talk to people, or if you want to hide in an alley and feed on somebody, you can do that as well. You just don't want people to see you, because then that'll set off alarm bells and people will be like, hey, someone's being attacked. But there's also like hostile areas where you'll have to either use powers to make them talk to you, or sneak around them, or fight them. And that depends, like on which zone you're in, what you're trying to do, whether these are friends or enemies, that sort of thing. And you can navigate your way through the factions by doing their quests, talking to them, or you can say, to hell with all the factions. I don't care about any of you, and just do things they don't like, whether that's fighting all of them, telling them all off, or sneaking and stealing their stuff.
Wild card time.
Yeah, wild card time.
So you've got the game's listed on Steam, the game's listed on Epic, you've got Kickstarter poised and ready to go. Go like, follow, whatever the verbiage is for each one of the Trinity there. Again, we'll have links in the show notes and on the site for everybody to go pull up and make sure that's done. There will undoubtedly be quests that day as well. Go like them and go follow them. Go get that done so this game can get some attention that it needs.
I appreciate that.
Proceeding. Anything else you want to make sure anybody knows about with Nightborn that we haven't touched on?
I am working on the demo. I want to make sure that people get their hands on it, know that this is something that they want to support. Once the demo is ready to launch, I will make it available for people, and that is probably just about the time that I'll be launching the Kickstarter, doing at least a pre-launch so that people can start playing it, knowing if they want to support this game, and support me and anyone that I can hire to help me develop this game. But yeah, just keep your eyes on it. Like he said, get notifications on the Kickstarter. Please wish list. That always helps me out. Take the quiz and yeah, just get excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Algorithms are stupid on every site at this point, pretty much, that's out
Mhm.
there. So just go help fight Steam and some of the stupidity that's happening there. PlayStation took action against some of their trying to shovel out some of the nonsense that's ending up there. That way you can get games that actually deserve attention to get attention. So go forth and make it happen. Now you talked about a lot of tabletop in here too. You're involved with Gen Con some, and I only bring this up because we do have a number of tabletop folks, the tabletop group, and Gen Con has been hot in the discussion right now because people are getting their tickets. So what's your involvement there? Not to I don't want you don't have to give any state secrets up or anything along those lines, but just what are you involved with for Gen Con?
Okay, I'll put these top secret documents away, and I'm the
Yeah,
IT manager.
no video for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the Gen Con IT manager, so that means that I make sure that when you're well, right now that the website works and you're able to purchase the badges, which they are open for purchase now for Gen Con 2025, and that's when we're actually doing Gen Con itself. I make sure that all of the technology on site works, and that all the cashiers can sell you your tickets and your badges, and that all the latest information is there for all the games that are happening throughout the Indianapolis Convention Center, and all the satellite hotel areas where we have events as well. And I also work with the team with the Gen Con mobile app. So you can do mobile app like e-ticketing. So you can purchase tickets for events on your app and reconcile those tickets as well. And occasionally, when I'm feeling saucy, I run events at Gen Con and we'll play some like Dungeons and Dragons or Vampire the Masquerade or some other, tabletop games as the storyteller, and have a little fun. I like to be on both sides of that equation, both working it and playing with, the community.
You will see plenty of our folks running around there. So you'll have to keep an eye out for the threes running around because Jedi will be leading a contingent of folks going through there, no doubt. So people are excited for it. It'll be cool.
Yeah, we'll have to meet up. I'll say hi. Yeah.
Well, let's jump into your three. I always love, I don't change the format of the show overall, even when we're talking to folks who are developing games, because I think it's important, one, to think, you really kind of interwove several of the games we're going to talk about here throughout that conversation around Nightborn. But, it's important for people to understand, like, hey, listen, you're coming from this world. It's important to hear. So we're gonna, I will say you've got some long development cycle games in here for sure. In the case of your first one, that development even continued on through its release, and contrary to the 2024 2025 sky is falling, world is ending world of video games, CD Projekt Red continues to power through, and they put the cherry on top of Cyberpunk 2077 this past year. But again, tabletop RPG origins going back to the 80s for Cyberpunk. Did you do tabletop Cyberpunk rounds at all, or did you just kind of get involved in this world? Again, we passed 2020 by the time it released. They had to jump to 2077, but
right. So I never actually. So well, I have since, but I never before Cyberpunk 2077. I never played Cyberpunk. I saw it on the shelves. I was more of a D&D Masquerade, like some other games. There's a lot of role playing games. I love how many there are.
Yeah, lot of worlds to dabble in, but yeah.
But no, I didn't play any our Telsorian products until after Cyberpunk came out. Then I grabbed a copy of Cyberpunk Red, played around with that, toyed around with. I love that world. I like what Mike Pondsmith has done with that world and his team. And it's kind of great how CD Projekt Red got inspired by that game, which I want to parallel to my journey. Obviously, I'm not a giant multinational corporation, but I'm just a solo dev. But I like the idea of taking inspiration for something and trying to make it a virtual experience, translating that sort of idea and that feeling you get from playing a tabletop game where you get to make your own decisions, where you get to have this world that's imagined just really like come to life and breathe some air into it. And I think they did a phenomenal job of translating Mike's world into a great game. Now, obviously, they kind of made it their own as well. There's a pretty if you look at the two products, there's some big differences between that, but that's not a bad thing. It's great that we can celebrate that level of creativity, and also the way that's completely justified is that Cyberpunk 2077 is more in the future than the current iteration of the tabletop version of the game.
Yeah, we passed that time, unfortunately. It's much like Back to the Future being, we're never going to get to 2015 now. We're long past it now. So I was going to ask with this one. So you have a number of tabletop games. You have you mentioned D&D inspirations. You mentioned Masquerade. How did Cyberpunk bump its way to the front of the list? Out of curiosity, I'm always kind of curious whether there's consciously or unconsciously, how do these things happen?
All right.
We don't ever tell anybody like, here's your theme for your list or whatever. And like, I'm always intrigued by the underlying psychology of what happens when we tell someone to make a list of any sort.
No, that's a very good question, and I did very intentionally put this at the top of the list for the reason about how like prescient it is, that it covers a lot of topics that are currently happening right now in real life that we have to explore. I mean, as Cyberpunk as a genre traditionally tackles these things, but now that we're sort of living this almost like sci-fi dystopia future is happening now, when things like AI is like infringing on certain things, and the questionable, the ambiguity of the ethics there, like we're still trying to figure that out. The fact, the ideas of a surveillance state, and like the cameras right now on our phones could be like tracked by like government agencies. Or, like,
I grew up on Terminator.
Stuff.
Let's put a couple of guardrails in first, guys. That's all I'm saying. Like, I appreciate barreling forward, but
yep. And like the overstep of corporations, we're sort of like in a corporatocracy here. The fact that we're always online, and that everything's being about us is being recorded digitally, and that the environment continues to be like ravaged by these things, and we're just sort of like given like little piecemeal, like maybe we'll do some recycling, but as we continue just like like you said, barreling forward with these technologies, just like where people are talking about how much like running AI or like generating cryptocurrency and stuff like that could be, like burning up a lot of energy. And of course that energy has to come from somewhere. Like these are ideas that are like live in the news right now, but they can be expressed.
Why is Keanu Reeves in my head talking to me and trying to
manipulate? That's true.
Me?
That's another timely idea. Why do I always see Keanu Reeves?
Why is he always there, but he's not?
If only I had Keanu Reeves in my head. Telling me what to do. But that's actually another reason that I actually love Cyberpunk, is that it plays with narrative devices like that, like Johnny Silverhands as Keanu Reeves in your head. That sort of like solves the issue of like you don't want a constant escort quest. Like it's nice to have a character that's very strong, like Keanu Reeves playing Johnny Silverhand. That helps you move the narrative forward and have more commentary on the state of the fantasy world that you're in. But you don't want to be like having to like protect him or like using him to like cheese fights or something like that. It's because he's not really there. He's in your head. I think that's a great narrative device, which that's actually kind of a theme with some of these other games as well, is just including interesting plot points that turn into great ways to tell the story. And he played a phenomenal role. I love the character of Johnny Silverhands, the whole rock and roll thing. Because I mean, it lets you be, because like it's hard to convince a player that they're a rock star, even if they want to be, unless they actually are. I know some actual rock stars that play video games, but that's not most people. And it's the idea that you can be in Johnny Silverhand's like flashbacks, or you get taken over by Johnny Silverhand and be the rock star and play that guitar in front of the band and everyone's cheering at you. That's a great moment. Like the game that's something that it shows, that the game doesn't need just violence to be exciting. Like I thought that was one of the highest moments of Cyberpunk 2077, is when you put on that concert and you get to just do like the quick bar action of like you doing like a guitar solo. and people are cheering at you, and that's, to me, that's one of the moments my heart was pumping the most. Not just jumping around and going, bullet time shooting people, but actually like getting a cheer out of people when you like really hit that key.
Yeah, it works. You buy into it. Again, you're in the world, and like you're truly a part of it. So
yeah, and it's not Guitar Hero. It actually means something to the story, right? It's kind of cool.
you're
I like little.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I like little details like that. It's great.
Your second game you bring up, again, talk about D&D tie-ins here, but you brought up Baldur's Gate 3. Again, what a great year we had in 22. We didn't know we had in 2023. Not that 2024 was terrible, but 2023 is, at least most of us knew at the time we were living in a big one. We're not going to be looking back at it. Now, we knew living in that one, like, oh, this is a good year.
It's going to be hard to beat. I definitely said that at the time as well. I was like, yeah, it's going to be a long time before another year this good.
Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder come out on the same day. Come on, guys! Like it started with somehow Fire Emblem not being that great in January wasn't that bad because you had the entire rest of the year of wonderful games that came out. But this was one of them, and it came and it swept up everything. It was this, I obviously tabletop's been a part of your life overall, but was this a first Baldur's Gate dive in for you, or into this part of the multiverse?
So mostly, you see, I did play a little bit of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, but I more I liked Icewind Dale, the way they handled it a bit more, and also Planescape Torment, which spoiler alerts on my list as well.
It's coming. That one, the one that the one I sent email back is like, oh, I need to look into this one. This is we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. So I played a little bit of Baldur's Gate, but I did more Icewind Dale at the time. So it wasn't the game that like I would have chose, but I'm glad they did to make a new iteration. Larian Studios, glad that they did make this iteration of Baldur's Gate 3. It let me go back and play those games a little bit more and find things that I didn't see back then. I think one of the reasons I was more into the Icewind Dale is because it was all about creating your own characters. The whole party was just your own characters. Whereas the Baldur's Gate 3, I was younger. I wasn't that much into characters that I just happened upon and had to learn about, and then they just joined my party. I was like, hey, I don't know you, get out of here. But now I
was just looking in the chest. There's no need to attack me and hunt me down for the rest of the game. Why are you doing this to me? Yeah.
Yes. That's the kind of thing that I kind of love now, and I love the way that they did it in Baldur's Gate 3. I love how deep they made each of the signature characters, where they have huge quest lines and that they can grow as characters in multiple directions, depending on how you interact with them as well.
With consequences for every piece of those things, too.
Yeah. Positive or negative consequences.
I'm sorry. I told you, Random Farmer, that I was going to go on that fetch quest for you, and I didn't do it. And you are not happy with me now that I did not do that fetch quest in Act 1. I am sorry.
And that is one of the things that a lot of other developers ask Larian, like, how did you account for every single scenario? How did you make it so that a player can make a choice and it matters so much to the actual plot of the story? And that's one of the reasons I super love this game, is because ultimately a lot of those things can be on the back end, that when you break down the magic, could just be different states that are almost binary. They either did or didn't do something, right? So then just later on you have just a check to see and have the interaction happen that other way. But when you're actually in the front end and playing the game, it feels like someone actually had like a whole complex thought in their head, and a series of events happens behind the scenes, and they come back and have an entirely different reaction to what you've been doing, what you've done with the world. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 is something definitely that a lot of developers should aspire to. I definitely aspire to creating a world with that level of reactivity and depth. Now, I don't have an amazing team of writers. I'd love to one day, but I can try to use them as a model to bring that depth of story to my smaller game, Nightborn, and aim for that mile marker, even if it's unattainable.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody will be able to attain that. I mean, even just the environments, like that's the thing. Even playing this one, and I got back, like it takes effort for me to get back into it. Because like I tell people, like I can't take 20 minutes and play this game. You need like 2-hour sessions at least to to get into it, because your brain has to be in this mind space of like, oh no, you have to make sure you move your cursor up over that stalagmite or stalactite or whatever's up there.
Mhm.
And, okay, I shoot it with a bow and arrow, it doesn't do anything. Or I throw a sword at it and like it'll, whatever. Like there's just so much interaction built into the environment that I'm like, how did they think ahead that of the 18 option wheel you have, that I can interact with this one little thing over here that I didn't even think about interacting with, but I accidentally moved my cursor over a little bit too far and realized like, oh, I clicked the wrong spot. Like there's so many beyond just the binary decisions behind the scenes. I'm like they made this world of just
Oh yeah.
of activity there. And like, listen, if you're making a D&D game, you gotta give people as much space for their imaginations as you can, and like they managed to do that.
I bet a lot of that is them actually interacting and paying attention to the community and seeing what people are doing, seeing what people want out of the game. I mean, it's frustrating when you try to do something and nothing happens. So they're like, well, we can make something happen. And if you try that, they just witness. I mean, that giant.
Even if it's a
early
brainworm
access
making
period.
fun of you, yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's something making fun of you, at least something happens. They had that great early access period where they're able to see how people
Lengthy.
interact, how they play with their game. I know there was a lot of testing behind the scenes as well when it comes to the things that weren't part of the early access period. And they another thing is they keep on supporting the game. They keep on coming out with great patches where they add content. I mean, in this next patch that's coming out, they're adding a whole new subclass for every single class. The detail and the extra work they put into it, and the love and the caring. Even though they've already announced that they're not going to like make an expansion.
Yeah,
Or
they've
sequel.
already gotten the boot from
Yeah.
they're not welcome back for some reason, which whatever, that's another just another conversation for that 7-hour panel to have. But
Yeah, but I'm excited what they're making next. They're making it another, I guess, an original property. So that's
yeah,
great.
so they're whatever, again, season tickets, whatever it is that they said, we're already off on our own project. Like everybody's with them. That's fine. You don't need.
I'm sold, Larian. We love you.
Yeah, I don't need a D&D stamp on it. You can pay attention to this anyway. So
They're such a great studio, and they're a big international studio too. They've got so many.
Yeah, it seems like some of the internationals, they know what's required time wise. They know what's required effort wise, and they get a little leeway with that. But it's not easy out there, no doubt for them. So they're plugging along. But they made, again, they made a rightly lauded game that here we are.
And it was a great representation of Dungeons and Dragons. I think it helped that property immensely. There was a great actually couple of years because there's the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Like
Made a
Stranger
Baldur's Gate
Things.
joke even in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Baldur's Gate. Yeah, and it's become a cultural phenomenon. People like in like mainstream news and stuff will make references and stuff. That's fantastic.
Things that get you shoved in a locker when I was a kid. Now,
Yeah, exactly. It's becoming popular.
Chris Pine just keeps making it smoother for everybody to like the nerdy things of my youth. Okay, that's fine.
That's true. I hope they make a sequel.
I hope so too, but they haven't said anything. And Paramount's in such a weird place, and I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things they like to claim it didn't make as much money as they wanted it to, or something. And I'm like, come on, it made a lot of money. Do it. Let it make a sequel.
Where's the kid from Freaks and Geeks? What's he rating now? I gotta look that up. He and his partner did that one. Let's go. Get on number 2, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, speaking of number 2, let's go to your number 3 then. With again, you referenced earlier, so of course it was coming up. But Vampire the Masquerade: Bloodlines. Again, another sequel, long in development here, but with another game with tabletop origins as well, and clearly again inspiring some of the things you're looking at here. But a game that they took tabletop and managed to translate it into a game with a strong support that nobody said like, oh, you ruined the game. People are bought into this.
Oh yeah. I'd say it's probably my favorite game of all time, Vampire the Masquerade: Bloodlines. And you're right. They beautifully created the feeling of the tabletop. Now it doesn't necessarily one-to-one the tabletop rules, but it's done in such a thematic way that is very immersive in the game. That I've heard very little criticism about that aspect of it not being one-to-one, but who cares, right? Because the game's amazing. Now the issue with Bloodlines is apparently it didn't do so well in initial sales, so it became more of a cult classic. In fact, when it came out, it was worse off than Cyberpunk was when it came to like the bugs and stuff. They needed to do an unofficial patch because they were already off the project. So it had to be an unofficial patch to make the game actually function completely correctly. But once people were able to play the actual full version of the game, people loved it. It became an instant cult classic. It's one of those games that you mention it and people reinstall it, you know, and that like I've played through it 29 times at this point from beginning to end. Hello, listeners. Let me know how many times you've played this game, and if you beat my number. But
I know some Baldur's Gate 3 folks who could take a run at it. I don't know about Vampire the Masquerade there, but again, like you said though, it's one of those things you bring it up and somebody's like, I got to go reinstall it now. You'll inspire at least a few more playthroughs, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about Vampire the Masquerade is it takes this whole vampire has clans, you know, and that's similar to like the lineages of Nightborn, but clans were the OG. So like people like to do Hogwarts houses, for example. People often have a clan that they particularly like and relate to, like your astrology sign, but you get to choose. They did a very similar thing with their clans where every clan has its own like weaknesses and strengths and history, and are very deeply themed, like Nosferatu, for example. They're like the hideous monster faction, and you got the Ventru, which are like the aristocratic like lords that rule from up on a ivory tower, and you got the Toreador that are the artistic dilettante types. And people really usually gravitate to it. It's one of those like stereotypes, one of those archetypes. That makes for a very good hook when you try to get someone to start playing a game, because it's like almost like acting. It's like getting a prompt. It's like, well, okay, I'm here. This is the world. What do I do? And if you hand someone a prompt and say, well, what if you played the game like this? And so you'd be like, okay, I got that. And they could start, rolling with their character. And the thing is, you're not forced to. So even if you're given the prompt, you could say, well, I don't want to play as that stereotype.
It's role play. Yeah.
It's role play. Yeah. You get to do what you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you got these nice immersive sim elements where what you do is reactive to the world. And if you, like betray someone, well, obviously the people on their side are not going to like you as much. If you help someone, maybe they show up a little later. If you find another path to something, maybe you circumvent an entire like encounter or something like that. Those are very strongly represented in Bloodlines as well. It's one of and that's a 2004 game, so it's one of the older games that did that sort of thing. And just the freedom of choice and the ability to have long conversations with key characters and have your actions actually affect the worlds, to have the radio play a newscast saying that, like the warehouse blew up and that was you just did that, so that it interacts a bit. And the Malkavians, the crazy vampires, when you can have a conversation with a stop sign, and it's like one of the most dramatic moments, you're like, no, you stop. And things like that. There's just little details like that which make the world come alive in this dark Los Angeles that they created, which is the setting of the game. It's just one of my favorite games of all time.
All right, well, we have a few honorable mentions again. Some of them came up already here, including the first one was Fallout New Vegas, which was Obsidian's contribution in the midst of Bethesda taking on Fallout and moving on from the ISO days of 1 and 2 and the tactics that only the real hipsters will say they know and play and love. But a little bit wackier, and a game where this was when I referenced earlier. You're making the best decision amongst just a collection of worse ones. And Fallout 3, like they kind of like, oh no, this is the obvious projection. No, Fallout New Vegas, like, nah, everything sucks. You're gonna pick one of them though, because you're just gonna enjoy your time here. But New Vegas was your first up. That you want to make a little shout out to?
Yeah, I just love the way that New Vegas lets you just one of the things I love about the start of New Vegas, not only do you get just shot in the head right away, it's not you're some sort of grand hero. You're just going after the guy that shot you in the head. I
was just the UPS man making a delivery. You're not the chosen one. Just got shot in the head, and I got to get that guy.
I hate the chosen one. start there, the that trope. I don't want to be the chosen one.
Not in this game. There's not.
Yeah, I want you to, little more down to earth, relatable thing that, you don't. I'm motivated to do stuff day to day other than saving the world. So yes, motivation of getting revenge on someone who shot in your head, that's good enough for me. But also you can go straight to New Vegas. It's just a deadly area to go. If you want to get the full story, you're supposed to go the safe way all around and explore everything. But they let you. You can just beeline it there. It's not an invisible wall. It's little things like that that make that game unique and special. Also, I love the theme of Vegas surviving and thriving in this world that's just a post-apocalyptic hellscape otherwise. And like the thematic factions like Caesar's Legion, like that's like some sort of, because you're back to the Stone Age, so why shouldn't there be like a Bronze Age, right? So and the cool attributes and skills that you have. And this it's Fallout was based off of GURPS. It's another tabletop direct line drawing to its inception, which is kind of cool. Which is probably why you have all these like freedom of action and choice. That's the core design of these types of games. It's one of the reasons I love New Vegas in particular.
Which faction did you end up aligning with?
Myself.
Yeah, they were all terrible.
They're all terrible. That one I was like, no, I'm in charge of New Vegas.
Yep, that's it. That's the one right answer. I feel like that's the only the only way that's there.
It's the best ending.
I just have to ask one more question for this game, because this is the forgive me if it sound I don't mean for this to sound condescending, but this is the cool answer for people who ask what their favorite Fallout game is. Yeah, you've got your old school. I'm a Fallout 1, Fallout 2 player. I'm a Fallout 3. I like when they moved it into the new world. I don't know if there's a lot of people jumping on the Fallout 4 bandwagon when they have to go help so many communities, but that's not the point here. There's the MMORPG folks for 76, but like there's something about New Vegas that like this is the one that's most popular. This is the one that's still hardest to get your hands on. I've got my chips somewhere. I've got my like collector's bundle from this one. I've got like the metal New Vegas chip and all that stuff. But like what is it about this one that makes this the one that people are like, yeah, it's New Vegas.
Right. Not only is New Vegas just this enthralling kind of environment to exist in with, like the cool archetypes of the different gangs in New Vegas, but I'd say this is it's actually the most advanced of the first person games other than 4 that they developed. And I think one of the issues with 4 was there was just, for me at least, some people love this, but one of my main issues with 4 was there was too much emphasis on the base building, and I didn't feel like that's what I wanted out of a Fallout game. I felt like I was like, well, I'm just trying to survive in the wasteland. Yes, obviously that's a survival mechanic, but I wanted to just do the role-playing portions. And also for a lot of the conversations they seemed circular and would just go to the same place.
That was where Bethesda's like automated quest generator comes in. Like, oh, you're just making me go fetch another book again. This is not actually a relevant quest. Like, it's just dumb XP. Like they did it with Skyrim too. Just like, oh, we have this infinite quest generator. Like, you get to go to a librarian. He tells you to go find a book, and you have to bring the book back. That's not an infinite quest generator. That's just nagging work.
It became a Bethesda game. It wasn't Fallout as much, for me at least, anymore. A lot of people still love it.
Yeah, if I didn't have to run back every 10 minutes to another base that was under attack, like I built 75 turrets here, so I didn't have to keep running back, guys.
Exactly. That was my experience as well. It's like I'm trying to not be at this base. I'm trying to explore the world. Hello. But little things like that, and also the dialogue choices not exactly lining up with what you say. There's little thing, whereas in Vegas you get the whole line. It's right there. You say it. That's it. And then
wackier too. You get that wacky mode too. You find like
what do they call it? Wild Wasteland or something?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, like you find Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's burned corpses in the town, like labeled that way when you're in wacky mode.
Yeah, I'd always take that perk. So Wild Wasteland, it's more fun. And the series for Fallout, they really capture that comedy. That's really nice. And also, as far as Fallout 76, it's had its own problems, but also I'm not in the market to play an MMO right now. So if people like it, that's awesome. I'm just not
I'm
in
happy.
the
I'm
MMO
happy
space.
for you, but I don't play that to. I don't play that to play with other people. I
Yeah,
play to be the lone wanderer.
I'm a single player
Yeah.
now. Yeah, which is Nightborn, great single player experience that I'm developing. So hopefully,
Sold.
if that's what you're into, yeah, there you go.
Your your
Um,
your honorable mention too, though. You mentioned a few times. This was one I had to look into because late '90s PC gaming, I didn't have access to a lot. But again, Planescape Torment, which also, but like I am going to be checking out because they brought this to everything in 2017. They brought an enhanced version up, so it's out there. It's on Steam. It's on Switch. It's on Xbox. It's on PlayStation. It's everywhere. So
yep.
this game's out there. But a lot of what we talked about with Baldur's Gate and just kind of like everything in the environment can be interacted with, and your choices matter. And there's a lot of pathways to go down. Is that what brought you to Planescape?
Yep, it's another cult classic. Now, what I said, one of the reasons I didn't like Baldur's Gate at the back in the day, I said is because I didn't want to pick up all these characters. But that's exactly what you do in Planescape as well. But you also don't really create your own character because you start as the nameless one. You're this amnesiac, that trope. But this trope makes it interesting because the reason you're an amnesiac is because when you die enough times, you just lose your memory instead of actually dying. But you can't die, and you're trying to figure out. That was the question: why can I not die? It's a very philosophical game. You start in you wake up in a mortuary in Sigil, in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. That's this city of doors. There's portals that you can go to like any of the worlds in the Dungeons and Dragons. Like Baldur's Gate is set, in like the Forgotten Realms campaign universe. But there's other campaign worlds, but also Sigil sits in the Outlands, which is part of the the outer planes with like the hell, heaven, all that kind of stuff.
It's all
But
got a canon. It's got canon space. That's the important part. Yeah.
yes, it's definitely fits into the cosmology of the D&D world, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about you and what is a person, and like what can change the nature of a man is the phrase that keeps on getting repeated, and you're trying to solve this riddle as you realize that you had past incarnations of yourself that chose to do different things, and now you're free to choose as you will how you're going to play this character. And you have to interact with like very concepts of reality. There's angels and demons, standing next to each other in the city, and having conversations and conspiring against one another, and the very concept of like the letter O you once meet in it's very like this existential, esoteric kind of a lot of big ideas, but somehow it works. It sounds super pretentious, but if you can get past the old what is it, like second edition AD&D rule set, if you can get past that and play the game that way, which the enhanced edition does a great job of making that easy for you, it's just a very deep and engaging experience that actually I don't know anybody who's played through that game who hasn't said the game hasn't changed them. So the way they see the world.
Well, it's out there for everything. So if you're like me and didn't catch this one the first time, you can check it out now.
Yep.
Now, same era of PC games. Your final honorable mention is the first Deus Ex. This was a PS2 game for me, but I know a lot of people. This was a big PC game. This was the
I
one
played
that,
it on
like
PC.
PlayStation 2. I was like, oh, this is what the next generation of gaming is. Okay, I'm paying attention now.
Mm-hmm. The granddaddy of all immersive sims. Warren Spector said that he created Deus Ex because he wanted the freedom of choice that you got in Dungeons and Dragons. So another tabletop to video game line there. And he wanted to. This also goes hand in hand with what I was talking about the prescience of cyberpunk. The fact that he wanted to get into some high ideals here when it comes to what is the nature of freedom, and like what does a surveillance state look like, and what is freedom? Is freedom like making sure that rules are just protect people, but what happens when those rules like control you? And this is another game where you, like I said, granddaddy of immersive sims, where you can like solve a puzzle by like stacking up boxes and finding your way around obstacles and that kind of thing. It's one of the games where you know they designed it in such a way where the quests goal, the solution to something, they can actually watch a player play the game and do like for example, the stacking up boxes and be like, wow, I didn't realize you could complete the quest that way. The developers wouldn't know until they saw someone do it, but they designed it in such a way where that would work anyway. And that's why it's one of my little runners up here. But yeah, I love Deus Ex.
That was one I learned recently. Like you go to the big corporate overlord room, like early in the game, like right away. You go into the stash. I had no idea. Someone told me about that. Like, really? I had, again, a replayable game because of the different paths you could go down, but I didn't realize you could just like, okay, go go right away to the final honchos there at the beginning. So it's a wild one.
Yeah, and that's being that far back, it's kind of nuts how much variety there is just in that little game of how many different ways you can solve stuff and learn about the world.
All right, well, David, one of the things we do, I did not give you a warning on this one, is we ask a question every day from the Channel 3 history books, and we usually pick one on the show to ask, and I'm simply going to ask you this: light mode or dark mode?
Dark mode.
Oh,
always.
thank God. Someone got us all riled up the other day. Like they wrote like a 5-page diatribe on like why they use light mode, and I my brain shut down. There was a revolt. It got ugly. I'm kidding, joking, the same way to moderate, but like dark mode all the way, people. Let's be done with light mode.
Absolutely. I mean, I existed at a time, and you did too, where dark mode wasn't quite a thing, and everything was just automatically default white background. So, but the second I heard of dark mode, and I was like, "What's that?" I turned it on. I was like, "This is so much better!" Oh my God.
The blue background on Word documents is my first experience with that. Of like, wait, I can change this to change the background on the Word document that doesn't hurt me with the bright white screen all the time. Yay!
I had no resistance to that change. As soon as I see dark mode, I turn it on, and I'm like, wow, my eyes are thanking whoever develops this.
Why did it take us this long? We had to figure out Y2K first, I guess. That was we had to get that out of the way.
That was a more important, pressing issue.
Had to explain that to my kids. They still don't believe me.
Yeah,
no, the world was going to end, guys. Just planes were going to fall out of the sky. No one knew it was going to happen. All right. Well, David Tveraas of Occupational Hazard, creative director of Nightborn, all of the above. Again, we'll have links to everything in the show notes here. Nightborn has a page on Channel 3, as do 10,000 plus games, but we've got some of the information on there, including you can find the quiz. You can go find out what your alignment is in the game, which of the lineages you fall under there, as well as the overview video that David put together to give you an idea on how that all breaks down. But again, we'll have links to the Kickstarter, Epic, Steam, all of that available here. So again, go follow Nightborn, like wishlist, whatever the term is for each of the 3 different places. I think it's saved wishlist, and I don't remember what Epic's version, whatever. But go do that. Help fight the stupid algorithms that keep games from getting attention that should. And again, like I said, iWoman's on the site today. It's amongst our anniversaries today. Go check out some of the. You had one other. Did you have one other one too in the history there for Occupational Hazard? Or misremembering?
I think you can still download on itch.io my Vampire Absolution game that I did for Game Jam, but yeah, I don't have any other published games there.
That I think I might have put that one into. I don't remember. I feel like there was a third one that might have been it. So fair enough. Well, join me in the Orlocks or wherever it is that you end up here. But again, check out all the links there. We'll have quests when this drops to go like and follow that in all the places. And I will now try to land the plane, which is where my co-host usually does, which means I screw this up every time. So again, you can find David, Occupational Hazard, Nightborn, all of the above there. The podcast is at c3.gg/podcast every Wednesday morning, 3:33 a.m. Our home on Spotify or all the majors, whether it's YouTube Music, Apple, iHeartRadio. Someone's like, "Oh, look, you're on Audible." Like, yes, we're on Audible too. We're all the places. I am aware.
Great.
So, our executive producer Joel Willis, and our theme song by Caster Garden at c3.gg/Caster Garden for all of his music. And speaking of the itch.io page, he's got his music page out there too. So check it out, everybody. And David, thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Dan.